Welcome to Home Remodeler Toolbox, the podcast dedicated to empowering remodelers and builders to build and grow successful businesses. Join your host, Bob Vance, founder of Home Remodeler SCO, as he brings you industry insights and strategies that will help you build a thriving business, no matter what level you're at in your business. Whether you're a thriving multi-million-dollar business or you're working on building your business from the foundation up, this podcast is your go-to source for industry secrets and actionable strategies that you can implement in your business to get to that next level. So, turn on, tune in, and let's help you build your business foundation one building block at a time.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast. Today, we got a special guest on, Bobby Brucksch of Brucksch Sons Remodeling. With over 25 years of experience in the remodeling industry, Bobby really brings a lot of experience, a lot of innovative designs, and really a customer-centric approach to his company, where he is the owner and lead designer. Bobby's dedication also extends well beyond his remodeling projects, as he's also a proud father of 9 kids who he takes an active role in their life and their activities. Bobby, it's really great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate you having me today, and thanks for that introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're amazing. You've got so much going on. We'll talk a little bit about how you balance life later. But, first off, let's start. Just tell us, about your company, where you guys are located, and really what you focus on.
So, name of our company is Brucksch Sons Remodeling, and we're located in Pasadena, Maryland, kind of sandwiched right in between Annapolis and Baltimore, Maryland. And we focus on kitchen renovations, remodels, bathroom remodels, and home additions. That's our main thing.
Okay, so kind of some big projects, also some small projects as well.
Yep. Yeah, we get a good mix. A lot of our additions actually include the kitchen or the bathroom, so it's kind of an all-in-one package.
Okay. Okay. So, how did you get your start in the remodeling industry, and then how did you start your company?
So I actually started like most of us do, right? Like way back when I was a little kid. My father was in the industry and just kind of learning from him. And I had that I guess drive, if you will, to learn about stuff. I was always creative, always liked to be able to build things. So that really helped to kind of form that. And then in 2008, I believe it was, I had just gotten married in 2007, and I was looking for just extra income. So I started doing stuff on the side, and just little things here and there, flooring, um, some trim work, just little stuff. And by 2010, just from word of mouth, I had to make a decision because I was working as much, if not more, at my side gig than I was at my full-time job. So, had to make a decision of either let that go and stay with my full-time company, or break away and do my own thing. So luckily, I was able to do that. My wife was supportive of us. So I broke away, kind of, started Brucksch Sons Remodeling. It was contracting at the time, but we started that, and it's really just taken off from there.
Okay. Sounds like you started with some perfect timing right around that recession. Um, I'm sure that had to
Yeah.
provide some challenges of its own.
It did, but it didn't, because I didn't really have the knowledge of what I was actually getting into. So there wasn't really any fear of that recession, and I was small. It was just me, right? I ended up, within a few months, I had a few employees, but I didn't have that fear of what if, right? Because I didn't know. It was just there was an ignorance of the economy, and everything else. So I really was just worried about what I had to do to provide for my family. Wasn't really paying too much attention to the rest of it. So it actually ended up working out better.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of like we've talked about in the past. Just kind of ignore the outside noise, take care of what you can take care of, control what you can control, and really just keep on
Yeah.
keeping on.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
It's all you can do.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. What was that initial vision for your company for those listening that maybe they've just started their own company and they're not really sure where they're going? What was that initial vision for your company for you, and then how has that evolved over time here?
So my initial vision really was to stay small, kind of on the smaller side. And I was just looking for a freedom of schedule and everything else. Like you said, I'm a father of nine. And at the time I was only a father of two, pregnant with our third. I wasn't pregnant. My wife was pregnant with our third. But she, so it was like, man, I wanted to have a freedom to be able to do all the things that I love to do, especially with my kids and with them being younger. I wanted to be able to really be part of their lives. So the whole vision when I started was to kind of stay small, least amount of stress, and everything else, just to be able to provide a better a better life for my family, but also a better life for me and not have to work, 80 to 100 hours a week. And so that was the initial vision. When I started, that was not what happened in the first couple years, obviously, right? Like all of us
Right.
do. Uh, I feel like I ended up working more than I did between the two jobs before, but it all equals out. So the vision now, as things have shifted and we've grown, and really through a lot of experience, the vision has shifted to really be able to build a successful company that makes an impact in not just our customers' lives, but also in my employees' lives, and gives them some opportunity to spend a lot of time with their families, kind of make that family first environment, that family first culture really stick. That's really important to us. Weekends off. We don't work weekends. That's been one of my rules from day one. And so that's the vision, is to continue that family first culture and grow while still providing a high quality service to our customers.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's one of the things that business owners often overlook is culture. What is the culture that you're really creating? Do you just have people coming in and punching the time clock and doing their work, whether it's doing really exceptional work or doing average work, or are you really a family, a work family that you really cherish each other, you cherish each other's time, value everyone's opinions, and like you said, it's that family first where you can all get together, do barbecues, things like that. And is there any books you've read, or any real lessons you have when it comes to how did you build a company culture for your company?
So, not in the beginning. I read a lot of books now. I didn't really do a lot of self-knowledge or I guess self-building. In the beginning part of my company, there was a lot of pride, a lot of just grit and determination, right? Which led me to a lot of mistakes, but family has always been big for me. So I think that just kind of poured out as part of me and who I am. Family is always kind of that most important thing. And being a father, I've always wanted to be a father, right? Like even when I was a little kid, I always had that kind of protective nature for younger kids, and so I think it just kind of came natural, and the guys that are around now, the employees that I have now are great fathers, right? They're great uh, supporters, providers. They're great men. And I think that just kind of attracts it, because that's how I am, not that I think I'm a great man, but I think I got a long way to go, right? Like the rest of us. But I try to say when I'm wrong. I try to lead, you know, try to make sure that I'm doing what I say, and it's not a do as I say, not as I do type situation. So, and I think the guys kind of just follow that, and I feel like it attracts people like that as well.
It attracts the right kind of people. Yeah, lead from the front.
Yeah.
really be a role model for them and earn their respect. And you attract the right people that way for sure. What's what's kind of one or two of the biggest challenges you've faced as you've grown your company from that small little company to right now being a powerhouse in the Pasadena area?
My biggest struggle was my pride, to be honest with you. So back in, I'm going to say we started in 2011. I'm going to say probably about 2018, 2019. We had a lot of ups and downs. And we had at one point we had almost 20 employees and we were making no money. So we had to scale back, and then, that takes a hit to your pride as a business owner. You're like, "Oh, cool, I'm growing a company." And then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, I just messed up," right? I said, "Now I got to go backwards," which I didn't realize I wasn't going backwards. I was actually going forward, even though we were downsizing, because there was a lot of personal growth there to really swallow my pride and figure out, like, I can build anything because that's what I'm good at, but I'm not a businessman, right? And I feel like a lot of contractors go into business because it's like, "Oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can build," but you don't have the business side of things. And to learn the business side is really hard, especially for a lot of us, because we are kind of, rough around the edges, kind of, prideful men, hard headed. Uh, Not me though. Like, I'm not. Nah.
You're perfect, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. In my eyes, when I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm perfect. Yes. But, the reality is I'm not. So yeah, I think just the pride was a big struggle for me. And then learning to convert from a contractor to a business owner was the other part, right? To realize that I'm not a contractor, I'm a business owner. And that's how you have to really treat it, because you're never going to grow if you're a contractor, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're if you don't take yourself out of that and start thinking like a business owner, things are never going to get easier for you.
Right. You're just working
So
a
that
job.
exactly. Exactly. And it kind of becomes a hobby, right? And there was a couple of coaching programs that I went through, where they would kind of teach you or ask you, do you have a hobby or do you have a career? Do you have a business or a hobby? And it's like, well, what's the difference? Like, I know the difference, but if I'm getting paid for it, how can you call it a hobby? And it's kind of one of those things that, are you making money? Are you paying yourself? And there was months I was not paying myself. So it's like you're putting in all this time, and then they walk you through how to calculate what you make. And a lot of times I'm like, I'm not even making minimum wage. I'm not even making dollar close to minimum wage. Right, exactly. So a lot of that stuff, like I said, just kind of the pride, getting the pride out of the way, and learning to trust that other people know what they're doing because they've been through it, right? I'm not special. I'm not doing something new. I'm doing something that thousands of other people do, and have done. And you just got to kind of be able to swallow that pride and say, okay, well, whatever they're doing, I need to learn from that. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like that you make that distinction from being a contractor to a business owner because everyone goes through that. I went through that myself, and when I was doing remodeling and custom home development, and then when I started my marketing agency as well, I felt like I had to relearn everything all over again. But you really got to decide: are you just out there working that job, pounding nails, and maybe working for free like you said you were? Or are you running a business? Are you implementing systems and processes? Do you have HR set up the way it should be with great hiring practices, the great company culture that we talked about earlier? All these things that really encompass what a business truly is. And you've got to learn those through the school of hard knocks almost. And you've got to make those mistakes. I feel like I've made every mistake in the book. Do you feel like that sometimes?
I feel like that all the time. And then I feel like that book is still not done being written, right? I'm like, I've definitely at this point, 12 years in, I've definitely made every mistake, and then I make another mistake. It's like, where did that come from? I don't know. That one, now I can't do that again, right? So it's just it's a continual book that's being written, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's that way in every industry, with every business. It doesn't matter what you do. There's always mistakes to be made. It's about where you go from that mistake, right? How do you grow from that? And how many times are you going to do it, right? How many times do you want to hit your head on that wall before you move the wall, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like I make every mistake, and it's like, no, you haven't made every one. There's more to come, and like you said, it's you learn from it. Don't make make that mistake once, but don't make it again. And then, you kind of what you alluded to, it's not really what happens to you in life, it's how you respond to that. We're all going to make mistakes in business or in relationships or whatever it may be, maybe even with customers. It's not about making that mistake or getting that bad review from a customer. It's how do you handle it? How do you work with that person on it? How do you grow from it, and how do you avoid maybe having that same situation pop up again?
Exactly. Yeah. And just like you said, all of life is just learning. Um,
Yeah.
as you start, especially for me as I get older. I was a really hard-headed kid, so I thought I knew it all. And as I get older, and I'm supposed to have more wisdom, I realize how dumb I actually am, right? How little I really do know. And
Right.
but it's also exciting, right? Because now I know that there's so much out there to learn, and there's so much more potential. So it's very exciting to see, and be involved with guys like you that have been around and that know a different aspect of the company, of the business, right? As far as marketing goes, it's exciting to be around other people that have been there, done it, are still making mistakes, but are doing things better than you, because then you're learning, right? And I never want to be a master at marketing, because that's just not my area. But I want to know enough to be trouble. So
Right.
it's
To know that you are mastering the mark and the opponent.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So to learn the different aspects, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of learning, I think you recently implemented a coach that kind of helps you with running your business, more like a business coach. Helps you,
mhm.
kind of guide you on numbers and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it seems like that's really propelled your business forward, even more so than the trajectory you're already on.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been through a few, finally landed with, Randy Stansberry with the 4-level coach, and I've been with them for a few months now, and we're building out, some systems and processes, some things that I knew I needed, but I didn't really know where to start, or, how to start, or really exactly what I needed. I knew I needed something in place.
You
So,
don't know what you don't.
Randy. Exactly, exactly. So Randy and his crew, have really helped us to learn about these processes and these systems that we put in place, because no matter what you do, you have a system. It's just maybe it's not written down. A lot of us it's in our head, which, just that jumble of mess that's in your head, you're expecting somebody else to know, and you don't even know what's in your head 90% of the time, right? So
Right.
then you're getting frustrated because you guys aren't doing things that you expect them to do, but you've never told them how to do it in the first place. So a lot of that, it's just kind of pulling everything out of you, putting it on paper, and putting it into a process that other people can follow, and it'll make the hiring process easier. It actually makes things a lot easier for customers to follow as well, because there's a system in place. So you're providing a lot more, a lot more quality, a lot more, just a lot more good work for the customer, process to follow. So it just really separates you from everybody else in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned systems and processes, and it's something I think about a lot because when I started my marketing agency, I had a buddy of mine who's an engineer, very, very engineer minded. And he's like, just make sure you're really focusing on system and processes as you create this new company. And I thought, man, I'm in marketing. I'm going to be on my computer building websites and, like systems, processes. Like I just kind of I kept it in my mind. I didn't completely, discount it, but I just thought, how is that really going to apply to me? I know he's an engineer, so I know where his mind's coming from, but I always kept it in mind. And I tell you what, it's been the biggest lesson I've ever learned in my whole life. I think when it comes to business is your whole business is a system and process. It's several systems and processes, and from how you do things internally, how you hire, the steps that you go through for a sale, or just what the customer experience going to be like. How do you set those expectations? How do you say, hey, on day one, this is how things are going to unfold, and this is how the rest of the project's going to unfold, and at the end of the project, here's what's going to happen after that. And I think a lot of guys in remodeling, whether they have experience or whether they're just starting out, I think a lot of them don't realize that you really got to lay all that out. Like you said, you might have it in your mind, you might think you know what's going to happen next, but no one else knows what's going to happen next because it's not a process, it's not a system that you built. And so it sounds like that's something you're really focusing on as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, you always have a process. You may not know it. Right. And that was something that they really walked me through was you have that process. I'm like, oh no, I don't. I don't have anything down. Oh, well, what happens when a customer calls? Well, we take their name, we put it in the system, we do this, we do that. And they're like, okay, there's your process. Write it down. And it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I understand that I do have a process.
Yeah.
Same thing with the job. What do you do when you show up? You always end up doing the same thing, right? And that is your process. You just have to get it out of your head onto paper so that your crews or new employees, old employees, whatever, subcontractors, doesn't matter. Everybody can follow that process because it's out of your head.
Yeah. Everyone's a representation of you and your company too. So you want to make sure they're following by the book. You don't want one guy showing up doing his thing, another guy showing up following the process. And then all of a sudden you've got a lot of inconsistency. You start getting customer complaints or whatever. And then the other thing too is, if you keep all that stuff in your head, you're never really going to remove yourself from the everyday minutia. You never can really step back and say, I want to be the visionary. I want to grow this company. I want to grow our staff, grow our revenue. Really be innovative. And you can't do that if you're stuck in the day to day because everything's in your head. You haven't really put it down on paper yet.
Right. Right. Then you really are involved in every aspect of the company. And it's just overwhelming. That's where you get into those 100-hour weeks,
Yeah. Yep.
80 to 100 plus hour weeks. And then you start getting frustrated because people aren't doing their jobs, but you've never really led them to be able to do their job. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so having the systems and processes, for me, that was one of the biggest parts of the coaching programs was the systems and processes, especially with 4 level, but they also get into the money side of things. So knowing your numbers and everything, I kind of came into that already knowing my numbers from another coaching program that I was part of. So I had a little better knowledge of knowing my numbers, but they've still helped tremendously with just learning, hourly cost and your overhead and what is overhead, what should be cost of goods, just certain things like that. Sometimes there's salaries that shouldn't be overhead, they should be cost of goods. So little intricate pieces of the puzzle that you don't really know. Different coaching programs will teach those. So it's really been a game changer for me.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, like you said, knowing where know your numbers. I always talk about that with folks. Know your numbers. You need to know your numbers inside and out. And, if you've got a home office, are you charging for that? Because if you're not, then you're making a mistake. That office cost you
Right.
something. You built your own office building, and that cost you something. That electricity cost you something. So, and then building in profit. That's one of the things that I really took away from the book Profit First, and there's also Profit First for Contractors. Great book. I can't remember the author off the top of my head right now, but making sure you take
Oh,
profit out. Okay, yeah, yeah, McAllowitz, that's it. Yeah, great book. Not only you need to be paying yourself a salary that you deserve, and make sure that that's always in the bottom line, but you also need to take profit out of the business too, because you didn't build a business just to pay yourself a salary. You build a business so that the business can be profitable for you and you can take out 10 or 20%. And as you start scaling, that 10 or 20% of profit, pure profit, starts to add up to quite a bit. And if you're not doing that, you're really missing the boat.
yeah. Yeah, and that's part of the freedom, right? I think a lot of people have a stigma about, money when it comes to money, that they don't think that they're good enough to make a certain amount or,
Yeah.
whatever, that you have a bad taste in your mouth about money, and as long as you're not out here ripping people off, you should be getting paid for your service, You're not going to work for somebody else for free, so why would you do it for yourself?
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. A lot of people miss that point. It's not funny. It's tragic,
Yeah,
really. But,
it is. It
with everything that you've got going on, building this business, really growing it, massive success that you're having right now. How do you find balance with your family and raising 9 of your own kids and being their coach and being involved in your community and philanthropy? Like, how do you find that balance? What are some tricks that you can share?
So for me personally, it's my faith. I'm very rooted in my faith, and everything that I do goes back to that, right? So God is the center of everything for us, especially with when it comes to our kids and my family and my business. So that's kind of the rock that I've built on, and that's been the most important part of everything that I do, and everything else just kind of flows from there, right? So it's making time for work, and then that's a dedicated time for work, but also, and it took me a long time to learn this, and I'm still not there, but learning when to cut off and leave it at the office, right? Or leave it at work, and dedicate that time to my kids. Like I said, for me, the most important thing in my life, the main goal in my life is to be a great father. And I can't do that if I continue to keep my head, 50% at work and 50% at home. I can't do that. So, years ago, I was speaking with another business owner, and he told me, you're either going to be a good father or a good business owner. You can't do both. And as I've been learning a lot of self growth, I've been really just realizing that that's not true, right? You can be both. You can be both. You can be great at both. You just have to be disciplined enough to not let one spill into the other, and more so the business. You can't let your business spill into your family time. But on the same hand, I feel like I need to let my family spill into my business because it's a family business,
Yeah.
So a lot of things that I do, especially in the business, is because I don't want a bad name for myself, but I also don't want to pass on a bad name for my kids. So you have those obligations to everybody, right? I don't want to have a bad name. I don't want to pass on a bad name. So
Yeah.
so I think, again, just kind of that, for me, the faith being the center and then allowing everything else to flow from there has been my biggest thing. And then learning when and how to cut off from the business to be able to be with the family is huge, because it also makes work more enjoyable. You're not you don't get burnt out as quick. Still get burnt out. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
still days that
Sure.
I'm like, "Oh, this is terrible. I wanna just curl up in my bed. We do this anymore," right? Exactly. Why am I doing this again? But again, you go back to your center and you realize
Your why.
I'm doing this for everybody, right? I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's not just for me. It's for the family. It's for my community. It's for the other people in my life and people that I don't know yet, right? That's why I'm doing it so that I can be able to help everybody. So, and then with coaching, it's just like I said, it's that fatherhood, that mentorship desire that I have that just and I love being around kids. I love just making an impact and seeing them grow. So again, it's that why, right?
Yeah.
So it just makes me feel good. They're a lot of fun. They're just a joy to be around. And like I said, I love watching people grow. Doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. I like seeing people succeed and I like seeing them grow and learn whatever it is, skill or sport, maybe some knowledge. Hopefully somebody gets something from this, just those little things that hopefully we can impact others. And that's what just really keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got your why defined. Most people don't always have that defined, but you know your why, and it keeps you grounded. It keeps you moving forward, keeps you working hard, and building that company that one or two or more of your kids are going to probably end up taking over one of these days.
Yeah. If not starting their own, right?
Yeah,
Maybe they get into electrical or plumbing or HVAC or something else, who knows, right? But to give them that confidence to be able to step out on their own because I didn't have that, right? My parents worked for other owners. So which now my father owns his own company, but before me, I was the first one out, right? So that's scary, especially not having anybody in the family to go to and be like, what did you do here? What did you do there? And podcasts weren't really big
no,
back then.
no, no,
Do that.
oh, no, not at all. So hopefully, we're like you said. Hopefully, people are able to take some insights away, especially for those newer remodelers out there. I talk to them, all the time. They're just getting ready to branch out. They're afraid. They don't know what they don't know. They're really jumping into the unknown. They don't know if they're going to make it, and it can be scary. But I think listening to people like you and what you've been through can be really helpful. If you had to give, one piece of advice to someone starting out, just kind of branching out on their own, like you did long ago, what would you tell that guy starting his new remodeling company, guy or gal, I should say.
Just do it.
Just
Just
do
do
it.
it. Right. Yeah. Do it because the first step is the hardest step and it always is. Trust your gut and just step out and have faith that it's going to work, right? You have to put the work in, you have to make it work, but have faith that it's going to work. If you're treating people right and you're doing the right thing, the people will continue to come back to you, right? Work will show up. So as long as you're doing the right thing and you're not out here trying to scam people or make all your money off of one customer, word of mouth is huge. So just do right by people. And my other takeaway would be just start small so that you can really learn because I started small and I say started that way, but it was a month that I only had 2 people and then I quickly went to 10. And then within 6 months I was at 20 people and I had no supervision. I had the work, right? But I got greedy and I didn't know my numbers. So, like I said, just getting out there and starting, know your numbers is number 2. And then I would say the third most important thing is finding a mentor. Find some kind of coaching program so that you don't have to learn the things that you don't know the hard way.
Right.
Right. So try to find somebody that's been through it so that they can kind of guide you into the what ifs. What happens if the economy crashes? What are you going to do? Well, here's a plan. What happens if you have too much work and not enough employees? What do you do? So
Yeah.
there's little things that you just don't think about. But
Yeah.
yeah, that would be my big things.
Yeah, those are great. I really like that last one too, mentorship, because a lot of people they're afraid to reach out. They're like, "Oh, well, he's my competitor. Why would he help me?" And people, I think they underestimate the goodwill in human beings in the human race. Like most people are good people. They will help you. They will try to steer you to success, give you some of those tips where you can avoid some of those pitfalls and obstacles. People really want to do right by others for the most part. You have some of your ne'er do wells, but I mean, I experienced the same thing in the marketing industry. I network with a lot of other agency owners that own their own digital marketing agency, and we all share with each other whatever's working with SEO, whatever's working with pay per click or different types of lead generation. Just share because there's so much abundance in the world that just by helping others, you're paying it forward, and through the karma in the universe, through your faith, it's going to come back to you. You're not asking for it to come back, but it just naturally will come back to you because you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing, and you're being a good person, and that's really all we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Some of my best friends are so-called competitors, right? They're in the same industry we are. We know we're not competition, right? Because we're bouncing ideas off of each other. We're also able to complain to each other, and we get it, right? Because I know what you're going through. So when you're complaining, I have the same complaint, or I've been there, right?
Yeah,
So it's nice to really step back and realize that not everybody's competition. There's really nobody out there that's competition for you except you, right?
yeah,
So because you can't do every job. I don't care how big of a company you are. You can't do every job. You can't service every customer. It's just not going to happen. So have that network of so-called competitors, right? That know kind of what you're going through, and use them as that network, as that mentorship. Because like you said, people are more than happy to help out. Most of these coaching programs, similar to your marketing program, are ex-contractors, right? That just kind of moved on. They want to help others, and they want to help others grow. And so again, it's not a competitiveness. It's just what's inside of that individual person to want to help others.
yeah, yeah. Altruism for sure. So Bobby, as we kind of wind down our interview here, close it out. What's in store for Brooks and Sons Remodeling? What's your vision? Where are you guys going in the next year or next few years?
Yeah. So for me, sky's the limit. I have, like you said, I have 9 kids, and starting next year, well, about 2 years, year and a half, I'll be hitting an 18-year-old every other year. So I want to continue to build the business out to give them the opportunity to come in if they want to. None of my kids are being forced into the family business, but if they want to get into it, I want to be able to have a business big enough to sustain that and continue to grow. So we're looking within the next year to double our yearly income, and just continue reaching other customers, continue to grow our brand, and continue to gain relationships and gain knowledge in the industry.
Awesome, awesome. Sounds great. Well, I wish you the best of luck on your journey, onward and upward, as I always like to say. Really enjoyed, having you on the podcast. Enjoy having you as a friend and working with you on ideas and just trying to better both of our companies. Really appreciate you being on the podcast here, sharing your insights. Um, Definitely a great interview. Some things I definitely want to reflect on myself. So once again, thanks for being on.
No, I appreciate you, Bob, and I appreciate your whole team. And we're going to get to those numbers because of you guys. So thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Great to hear. All right. Well, everyone, that's a wrap for today. That's Bobby Brucksch of Brucksch Sons Remodeling. Hopefully you got some great insights from our interview today. We'll look forward to catching you all on the next episode. Everyone, take care. And that's a wrap from the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast. Take care, everyone.
Hey, if you liked our podcast, join the remodeling community and hit subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so be sure to share your thoughts on what you might want to hear about in future episodes. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit homeremodelerSEO.com and check out our services that can help build your foundation for success. Thanks for tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.